Let's talk about water intake. So 96 ounces turns out to be how many cups of water? What are we looking at?
Ooh, let me do the math. Let's see. I believe that's about 16 or close to 16.
Okay. Okay. How do you spread it out throughout the day? Because we know how important it is. I mean, so many people mistake thirst for hunger. When in fact, if they were on track with their water, chances are they'd probably eat a little less. Talk to me about your water strategy.
So basically, I keep with me like a 32-ounce bottle, and this way I know that if I'm filling this up 3 times over the course of the day, then I've met my requirements. So with that being said, I am not one of these people, believe it or not, that doesn't wake up and go right for the water. I literally go right for my coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am like a coffee junkie to some degree. And so, but that brings me my level of comfort in the morning, right? And right after that, I'm good starting in on my water. And so typically I will get my first 32 ounces in, normally before 8:30, 9 a.m. Then the next 32 ounces is typically coming between then and maybe 12, 1 o'clock. Yep. And then I'm probably drinking the rest from 1 o'clock until 7. That's when it might become a little bit more just sipping water, or, maybe I'll chug another one or two of these, but that's pretty much it. I try to spread it out. My big thing is I just don't want to drink too late. So I try to front load as much of it as I can.
Perfect. And the fact that you're measuring through the volume of the cylinder, that really helps. Now, having said that, a lot of people say to me, hey, Tom, listen, I know I've got to cut coffee. And I'm like, dude, I love coffee. That's never going. And obviously hearing you say that you're a coffee junkie is okay. All right, good. How do we work it in? And what are the pitfalls with coffee that, like cream wise and sugar and that kind of stuff? How can somebody minimize the coffee effect, but still enjoy their coffee and get hydrated at the same time?
Yeah, that's an awesome question as well. Because, if there's any drawback, let's say, of coffee, and listen, let me just say up front, different people respond differently, right? So there are some of us who metabolically are set up to be tolerant of caffeine, maybe in high amounts. I'm not a person who gets affected where I feel jittery or, like I feel off. But I think probably the most important piece to this is it actually ties back to the hydration component that we were just speaking about. If you have 8 ounces of coffee, but now you're peeing out 10 ounces of fluid, well, that's not good. Now you're in a negative deficit. So you have to make sure that you are outpacing whatever your coffee consumption is by a significantly greater amount of water. And so what I try to do is I do try to keep the majority of my coffee intake to earlier in the day. I still might have some in the afternoon or have some caffeine in some form in the afternoon. But I'm always in the back of my mind just saying, okay, if you did that, are you getting enough water? Are you drinking enough water? And that to me has been the key, is just staying ahead of it and never allowing yourself to fall into that state of dehydration. That, I believe, is where people, if they have some negative effect from drinking coffee or drinking too much coffee, it would be that. It's that you're using coffee as your means of fluid intake, and that should not be your primary intake. You also touched on another thing which I think is hugely important, is what are you putting in your coffee? For a very long time, I was a black coffee drinker. I don't know what changed over the past several years, but I started adding cream in. I'll do half and half. My thing is that I will never dump sugar. I'm never going to dump milk. I'm usually going, again, very high to full fat, because I'm also a big fan of intermittent fasting or time restricted eating. And because of that, I'm very mindful in the morning that, hey, I don't want to consume anything that would cause my insulin levels to rise. And so what I coach myself as well as anybody else to do is, listen, you're fine having the coffee, but hey, why don't just use half and half, switch off from the milk to the half and half. dump the sugar.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to provide you any benefits, especially if your focus is fat loss. And what it winds up doing, it winds up just disrupting your energy levels. I mean, you get like this false increase in energy, and then suddenly, you had your coffee, but now you're feeling tired an hour later, and you're feeling hungry an hour later. Why is that? Well, it's not the caffeine, it's not the coffee, it's all the things that you add into it. So to me, that's the biggest thing, is just, enjoy the taste of coffee, right? Like,
yep.
You don't need the taste of coffee with your sugar. That's how a lot of people today approach their coffee intake.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so how many coffees a day? What are we looking at?
Whew. Well, let's see. For me, it's almost easier to speak in terms of ounces. I'm good for anywhere from, believe it or not, 24 to like 48 ounces of coffee in a day.
Okay, got it. Yeah, for me, it's I think 3 cups. 3 cups a day is what I normally have. I love my coffee, right? And I think a lot of people don't realize that there are some really nice brands of coffee that alone, you get a good quality coffee. You don't need to add as much. You just got to find that coffee that you enjoy. I don't grind my coffee up, but apparently people who do with their own machine grinder, like, the coffee's amazing. So, I mean, that's another fact, right? Just get a good coffee if you're a coffee drinker.
Absolutely. And listen, I'll just add one more thing, because I know some people are probably like, wait, this guy drinks 48 ounces of coffee in a day. But what I will do oftentimes is, because I am mindful of going too high on caffeine, some of that will be decaf. So I actually get a really, really high quality decaf, where you couldn't necessarily differentiate the taste between it and, any other type of high-end coffee. And I use that oftentimes, because for me, there's a certain level of comfort that comes with consuming it. I enjoy the taste, but I also want to be mindful of not being, excessive with my caffeine intake. So a good amount of that, if I'm going on the higher end, would wind up being decaffeinated coffee.
Yeah, got it. Really good.